Hey everybody, so it is Tuesday, October 28th, and we're coming up on about 4 p.m. Some of the colonies are active here, some of them are not. It is cold. It's 50, I think, 7 degrees in Northeast Ohio. Now, what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to explain the last 2 things that I'm going to do for my colonies to get them set for the winter. Now, I have double bubble Reflectix that I'm going to cut it and I'm going to utilize it on the top of my migratory lids. What this is going to do is it's going to add a little bit of R value onto the top of my migratory lids, and that way the colder air will be on the sides. If there's any condensation, it will form on the sides, so the bees will still have access to some water in the wintertime if they need it. Very easy process here. I'm going to cut it. I got a staple gun here, and I'm just going to staple that to the lids. I also am going to flip my buckets back over. Now, I have my buckets in the off position, the plug's up, and it's warm enough that, well, I'm going to give them some syrup here again. So let's get to our buckets, the Reflectix, and let's just see how these colonies look. All right, now I'm looking at the width here, and the width of this Reflectix looks like it is just going to fit right in there. So that's good. All I'm going to have to do really is get my length. So let's move this bucket. You can see the bees are down in there. Oh, look at that nice cluster there of bees. Here we go. Get this wax off. I'm just going to clean a little bit. So all that I'm going to do here is basically take this and I'm going to fit that in there. So it looks like I'm going to have to trim a little bit off of this side because what I want to do is fit it inside of this shim. So let's get the length, and I'll probably do one and then cut several others. So right there along that crease. Okay, and I'm going to cut about an inch or so off of this side here. And let's see how that looks. Look at that. That'll fit right in there. There we go. I've got to cut that in the center there. All right, you see that's all I'm going to do is right there. So this lid is, well, it's done. And I'm liking that right there. That's going to give me a little bit more R value. There we go. Shift that back some because I'm going to feed for another couple days here. So this colony here, this is done. I've got that Reflectix up there. Now with this feeder shim on here, I'll be able to put my Hive Alive fondant under there as well. So perfect setup right here. Very easy to manage. Absolutely have no complaints. So let's move on. Now I'm on to one of my little Apimaye colonies. And all that I'm going to do for this is, well, they're going to get a piece of Reflectix there, and these feeders are getting taken off. Oh yeah, look at that cluster of bees there. All right, got another one done. There's a good sized colony right there. All right, there's the one for there. Nice colony sizes here. All right, got 4 more colonies to do the Reflectix on, and then I'm gonna get these made up and put these on. So let's get these made up, and then we'll finish up the colonies. All right, it's Wednesday, October 29th now. I've got my entrances done, so let's get those put on. So that's gonna slide right in there like that, and look at that. And there we go, one went in. So I'm gonna go down the line and get all these entrances on, and then let's update on some other items that I wanna talk about as far as my winter preparation. All right, well, I got the entrances on. Now, the insert that goes inside, I decided to pull that out. The bees, when I put that in, I was smelling a very strong alarm pheromone. So it might be too late to put those in. Now, I did put in well, that one slipped out, but I did put in these entrance reducers here, and that's a small space there. Some of them were very tight, and I had to take my Hive tool and hammer that in, so the girls got upset. But you can see here, these look pretty snug on there. I did stain them, that way they would resist the elements also, but that little space in there is all they're gonna get. I have my other Apimays. Oh, I forgot one right here. Let's slide that up. But I have my Apimays, the entrance reduced down. There is feed still on them for about 2 or 3 more days, and then that's gonna come off. So the colonies are pretty much wrapped up. Now you can see this one down here is one that got exceptionally angry with me. Now I kind of like the look of this stained entrance. Look at how it looks on front of my copper dipped. I love the look of that. Now, I'll say this, with the winter approaching, beekeepers, at least up here, have to really stay in tune with the weather. So that's going to lead me to my next segment here. Well, it is a 3rd day in a row, and I am in the apiary now. I thought I was going to have another day where I could leave the buckets on, but tomorrow I have some family dinners and things like that that are going on, so I'm not going to be able to come over tomorrow to take the buckets off. Saturday, then it's going to dip below freezing, so I have to get these buckets off today. Didn't want to drive over a 3rd day in a row, but it's times you just have to do what you got to do. So all I'm going to do with these is I've got plugs. I've got plugs that will go into the migratory lid. I'm just going to take the buckets off, get them stored inside, and that's it. And then after this, probably in a couple weeks, my fondant will go on. So the top, I've got the Reflectix. They're going to be plugged now, and colonies are going to be wrapped up. All right, well, that's it. Now, the colonies pretty much at this point, they're wrapped up. I've got every one of them. The feed is off. We can see how they look. I can't be any more happy with how the colonies look right now. They all have adequate population. I've said from the start of this season is a season to rebuild, and I have done that. So the yard, that right there is how it's going to look going into the winter. Now, like I said, the only other thing that I'm going to do is add fondant on, and I typically will add in my Hive Alive fondant around Thanksgiving time. So the colonies, how they are right now, well, they're going to have to survive. So, but going into the winter up here in Ohio, strong colonies, if you've taken control of your mites, you have those great queens that are going to build up. That right there is the key. So I can't ask for anything else right now. Really excited to see how things look next year, but like I always say, until the next one.